In this recipe, I'm going to show you a beautiful way of cooking fish, and it's all about the crust. It keeps the fish lovely and moist and succulent, and the texture that the Flahavan's Progress Oats gives it is absolutely gorgeous. I'm using Hake, and Hake is good value, available all year round, and it's a beautiful fish in Ireland. I'm keeping the skin on, which is interesting, but I've removed the scales. Your fishmonger will do that. Get a pin bone so there's no bones whatsoever. But you can make this dish if you want to with cod, salmon, haddock, even monkfish, so whatever fish you can get, but Hake is particularly good. So the first thing I'm going to do is start the crust. We have a little bit of melted butter, and I'm going to grate some whole nutmeg just into the butter. So using a microplane, so all I'm doing is just infusing it with the nutmeg, and then I'm going to put in the rind of an orange. And you'd think orange with fish should not be lemon, but I'm actually using limes underneath the fish and then some orange on top in the crust, so it works really well. So that's the infused butter ready. Smell the nutmeg and the orange zest, it works really well. I'm going to leave that over to the side. So the first part of the crust is brown bread, and this is some homemade brown bread. We make this every single day in the restaurant. What we do then is just put in some chopped parsley. I've whizzed the brown bread in the food processor. Some walnuts which are toasted and just roughly cut. So sprinkle all them in, and that's where you're going to get great texture as well from the oatlets, which I'm going to put in now. So this is the Flahavan oatlets. Sprinkle them in. So the last thing I have to do is just stir in the butter, and you combine everything. Now you can make this crust if you want to a day or two ahead, but what happens when you leave it in the fridge, it sets hard because of the butter. So just leave it out at room temperature, pop it into the microwave for 10 seconds, and you can soften it up. So you can see the oatlets, great texture, you know, it looks really colourful. So that's the crust ready. So the next thing we have to do is just put the crust on the Hake. But before I do that, a parchment paper, 3 slices of lime, or you can use lemon, or you can even use the orange. I find if you use too much orange, it overpowers the fish, but the lime works particularly well. And these beautiful little vine tomatoes. So good tip how you test when the fish is cooked, when the tomatoes are cooked, and that's a really, really good tip. So with our Hake, I'm going to brush and skin side, but the scales are removed, and your fishmonger will do this. I have a little bit of egg yolk here. I'm just using a pastry brush. I'm just going to brush the actual flesh side of the Hake all over. And then what I'm going to do is just get a handful of the crumbs and gently press them. I want to see that texture and get lots of that lovely crust on there. And then just carefully arrange them. Don't mind if any fall off, you can just put them back onto it. So these are ready to go into the oven. Just before I do that, I'm going to drizzle a little bit of rapeseed oil just over the tomatoes. A touch of black pepper, and then a pinch of salt. The oven is preheated at 200, so it's a nice hot oven. Parchment paper is a non-stick silicone paper, so it's not going to stick. And what's going to happen is the fish is going to be lovely and golden brown from the crust, but also the lime is going to give a lovely refreshing taste. This is going to take 15 to 20 minutes to cook off, and that really depends on the thickness of your fish. So a good indication when the tomatoes are cooked, the fish is usually done. How good does that look? The smell is fantastic, and you can see the lovely oats in it, the nuts, all the different textures, which is fantastic. Now all I have to do is serve up. Check the tomatoes, and if you want to be sure, check the fish, but I know by looking at it's cooked. So we just very carefully lift. You're using a palette knife, and that's the beauty about the parchment paper. So we put the fish on the side of the plate, and then these lovely cherry vine tomatoes. So with this you could serve some sprouting broccoli, you see some potatoes steamed. I think that looks beautiful. Eats really well and very quick to make and healthy. And I've used the Flahavan's Progress Oatlets in this. So that's my herb and oat crusted Hake fillet.